So I thought I had covered all the big story time YouTube channels, you know, the ones that do the animated story times, because I only honestly thought there was one. Well, I was wrong. There's a second, and I found the channel. What's up, guys? Welcome to my channel. My name's McNally, and for this week's video, we're gonna dive right back into those just delicious animated story videos, of which I don't think are real, but according to their channel, they are. Now, I had covered a channel called Actually Happened. I thought was the biggest animated storytelling channel on YouTube. Very mistaken. I found another one that is, well, gaining speed and popularity, and that is called My Story Animated. If you thought the topics that actually happened their videos covered was weird, you haven't seen anything yet, because My Story Animated takes that and just is like, hold my drink, I'm gonna show you something really impressive, with videos like My Father Passed Away Before I Could Take My Revenge on Him, which is dark and kind of creepy, and I think I saw a movie about that with that same premise. So, or another one is I was traumatized by what I saw in my teacher's window, which, why would you ever want to follow your teacher to her home or his home and look through their window? That's a lot more bigger questions to be asked than what you see inside their house. But the one I want to cover, because it perked my curiosity, was My Obsessed Neighbor Wants to Be My Mother, and which I also think I saw a movie about this with this same exact premise. The whole thing about this channel is are these real stories, or are these just stories made by a bunch of writers in order to get views? I'm kind of leaning towards they're fake. I've watched this video through, and let me just say, oh boy, we are in for just a roller coaster of emotions and quite the story. So let's hop into it.
Hi, my name's Ash, and I did something really embarrassing.
Can I just say right off the bat, every time I meet or hear of someone named Ash, I immediately think of Ash Ketchum. Am I the only one? Like, I realize I haven't watched Pokemon in a very long time, but that's just the first thing that pops into my head.
For a long time, I had a mellow life. My parents loved each other.
Can I just point out that whoever animated this clearly did not take a class in drawing noses, because they all have like animal noses. Like, they look like squirrel or deer, or they actually look like Pikachu noses. I don't know why this is not going to be an entire video about Pokemon. I just, one thing's leading to another and thoughts are, you know, running. So, but definitely an animal nose.
Honestly, I didn't have a problem in the world. But that was all before Rita moved in.
Let me just fill you in on who Rita is. She's a new neighbor, and man, is she a piece of work. And let me just tell you, she has made herself well known around town. Really well known around town.
Rita is a stunningly attractive woman who moved into the house next to us at the beginning of the summer. My family offered to help her move in after we realized she was all alone.
Maybe a little foreshadowing here, but I think there's a good reason for that.
And I was instantly in love. She was beautiful, sweet, funny, really everything I could ever want.
Can the person who animated this not draw regular, like, human noses? Like, I get if you can. I can't really draw hands that well. I mean, I can't draw well at all.
She looked in my direction, shocked, and dropped a box on the ground by accident. Did she realize she was in love with me? Did she see a ghost? I asked if everything was okay. Just as my dad rushed out.
Can we just point out that face right there? Like a little, like, do you honestly think someone would make that face if someone just ran past them? That's a face you make when you actually have seen a ghost.
Out from behind me and helped Rita pick up the box she dropped. She stared at my dad with a glint in her eye, a look I had never seen before.
Also, I want to point out, this girl has to be the most oblivious person. She doesn't realize what's going on until the very, very end of this whole story. She alludes like she does, but then she's like,
I kind of know what's going on, but then I have no clue what's going on.
Like, we all know what's gonna happen here.
She sheepishly took the box and rushed off. My dad continued on as if nothing had happened. My mom caught the whole exchange and looked like she had just seen her mortal enemy.
That's a pretty easy social cue to pick up. Most people would pick that up, like being around. Either this girl has been extremely like sheltered and never exposed to anything be TV, or she's just really bad at picking up social cues.
The next day, it became even more apparent something weird was going on. Rita knocked on our door, and my dad answered. Rita handed him a tray of cookies and the two stood on the porch, laughing.
Rita needs to back off. Like, she's stepping in things she should not be stepping in and getting involved in places she should not be getting involved. Ash needs to get a clue here. Your new neighbor Rita, which we all have that one person in our neighborhood that everyone just avoids because they're just bad news. Ash needs to figure out here. Rita is trying to I don't know, hit on your father.
But one day, it became clear my mom wasn't happy. My mom answered the door and took the cookies with a bitter smile on her face. Rita got super quiet and walked back home. From that point on, Rita didn't bring cookies over anymore.
I wonder why. At this point, we all know what's going on. Even if you don't really get this kind of stuff, or you've never experienced, or you've never like been around or seen like on a movie or anything we all know. Apparently this girl is the only one who doesn't know.
And it became obvious that my dad was the only point of the visits she made. As the weeks went by, I started to notice that Rita was outside in her garden every time my dad left to drop me off at school.
It's kind of stalkerish, really. I mean, I get trying to like hit on somebody, but I mean, now that's kind of really stalkerish. Also, doesn't this lady have like something to do, like a job or work or anything? I mean, I guess this is her work.
I'd snatch my dad up in a conversation so often that getting to school late became a common occurrence.
You would think that if you're trying to hit on someone's significant other, you wouldn't do it where it would impede on them doing something, which would then raise questions. Like, the school would be like, hey, your daughter's late every day to school. What's going on? And then the mom goes, oh, well, my husband's taking her to school. So then why is that? Like, just kind of begging to get caught.
I couldn't help but think the entire ride to school, what the heck is going on?
We're 3 minutes into this 10-minute story and you still haven't gotten it.
Was Rita obsessed with my dad? Had they ever known each other? But the biggest worry of all became, did my dad like Rita? She told me Rita was the type of woman who was a homewrecker. She deserved to be embarrassed. She deserved to be put in her place.
Now, I realize that what Rita is doing is absolutely terrible and it should be punished, but perhaps some open communication would help here. Like, before we break out the pitchforks and knives, which if it comes to that, then so be it, but perhaps going to her and, I don't know, talking and saying, hey, stay away from my family. We don't appreciate it. If you don't, we're gonna have some big issues. Like, I think that'd be a fair warning shot, but not this family. This family likes to just go right for it.
Women like that need to be taught a lesson, my mom told me. Rita had no reason to be talking to my dad. It was obvious what her intentions were. So my mom asked me if I would help do something embarrassing to make Rita back off. Be a bully? I tried.
I don't know too many parents that would get their kids involved in this. Do you think she should have school and other things and friends to deal with? And now you're recruiting your teenage daughter to help take on the woman who's trying to ruin your marriage. Like, I get tight-knit families stick together, but I feel like this would be something you would not bring the kids in on.
To calm my mom down. I told her Rita shouldn't concern her, that her and dad had a strong relationship, and that obviously nothing would happen. But then the arguing started. My once happy, mellow, and safe household became a minefield.
I don't know who drew these animations or was the director of this, but they clearly have never experienced a fight. This is a little dramatic for how people actually fight. And why does the dad have scary, sharp teeth or like he's a bear?
I never knew what was going on. The tension in the room was almost always unbearable.
You know what's going on. Use context clues. Put all of that together and you'll figure it out.
My mom and dad wouldn't look at each other. We wouldn't have dinner together. The screaming made every cell in my body supercharged, ready to run, prepared to escape. Soon, their fighting had bled into the day. I could never sleep, and soon, I felt like I could never eat. I felt anxious all the time.
Did anyone else hear that one note on a piano? Like, is that just supposed to signal, hey, we're in like an emotional time right now? Or was that just like someone thought about putting the song in there and then immediately took it out when they were editing it, but left that one part in there just in case they wanted to add it back in?
Then, the big one happened. After work one day, my mom looked over to see my dad helping Rita with her car. They looked intimate, like they were really flirting, and like Rita was doing all she could to hold my dad's attention.
Rita, you're doing this in the middle of the neighborhood during day. Like most people would try and be sneaky about this. Not this woman. She doesn't seem to give a care in the world.
That night, my mom and dad screamed at each other. I heard things being thrown. The house was shaking.
The house was shaking? What were they doing? Fighting with construction equipment?
The word divorce was screamed into the night on what seemed like a loop.
Okay, there's that just one piano note again. Is that supposed to mean something? Like, am I supposed to be decoding something?
A fire lit inside me. This had gone too far. The next morning, a Saturday, I rushed down to Mom. I told her I wanted to embarrass Rita.
First off, I like how she puts in there, it was a Saturday, so there was no school. But now she gets it. She understands what is going on, and now she's gonna deal with it.
She was tearing my family apart, ruining my entire life. We had to scare off the homewrecker. Mom sat me down, and we went over the plan.
It's a tad dark. Do what we had to do. What are you gonna do? Something like out of The Godfather? I mean, also not really sure it's a good idea to do this in front of the entire neighborhood.
At first, everything went off without a hitch. Desperate not to miss a chance seeing my dad, Rita joined us. Prior to the party, Mom and I had rigged up everything needed to run Rita out of town. When Rita got on stage, I froze. Sure, Rita was after my dad, but did she deserve this?
So now you've built up all this anger, and we're at this point now, and now you're gonna chicken out and have second thoughts?
Rita started her speech. She told everyone she was grateful to be in such a lovely neighborhood. She'd been through a lot lately, and getting a chance to be a part of a family again, to be a part of a community once more, had completely changed her life.
Yeah, she has been through a lot. She's been hitting on other people's husbands. Also, love this little picture here of the anti-homewrecker button, because you know they totally sell that at Best Buy.
I plunged my finger down on the button. Red lights flashed. A giant banner came down that read, "Rita is a homewrecker." The worst of all, a tube we hooked up hurled sticky, gross paint all over her.
Honestly, I think Rita is a homewrecker sign in front of the entire neighborhood was just enough.
I stepped up, telling everyone how she was ruining my parents' relationship, how I couldn't stand to see my mother cry. We had been so happy. Why couldn't she just leave us alone? You have no right, you little monster! Your father is the one who's been hitting on me!
I wouldn't know. That doesn't sound right. Not in this story. It sounds more like you. I mean, he never came over to your house with cookies.
And she insisted that my father left the house immediately. Then something interesting happened. One of the housewives' neighbors came up to my mother and insisted that she should believe my dad because it had happened with her husband too. That Rita was flirting with their husbands.
Hold on. So you're meaning to tell me that this entire group of people that have been here and knew her did not say anything to anyone, and when she was up there giving her speech about how she had hard times, no one stood up and said, yeah, hard times, you hit on my spouse. Also, I guess it was a good idea to invite the whole neighborhood so they could see all of this. It doesn't make sense how she could just move from neighborhood to neighborhood around the same town and no one be suspicious or know about her past.
Obviously, Rita was manipulating everyone. Finally, my mom agreed to let him stay, and I was beyond relieved. After that, we stopped seeing Rita, and later on, she moved out of our neighborhood.
Okay, so a few little comments and questions I have. The title of this is My Obsessed Neighbor Wants to Be My Mother. I never got that feeling. It's more like My Obsessed Neighbor Wants to Date My Father would be a more apt title. But I get that My Obsessed Neighbor Wants to Be My Mother is probably a more clickbait appealing title for people looking for video. So I totally get that. I don't really believe this story. It sounds too much like a movie or book or something that I've either seen or read. The story kind of like, there are parts to it that you're just kind of like, I don't get that part right there. That makes no sense. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And if you want to catch more, hit that subscribe button. I will see you guys next week with a brand new video.